The hairs inside your inner ear are not actually hairs in the way you think. They are these tiny filaments called stereocilia, and they are part of the top part of hair cells, and they move around in a fluid inside a spinal bone in your ear called the cochlea. The sounds around you are sent through your ear, they pass through your eardrum in a series of tiny bones, and then they're turned into waves in the fluid of the cochlea. The stereocilia send messages to your brain depending on how they move in the fluid, just like seaweed drifting this way and that way in the ocean current. They read the movement of these waves and pass that information to your brain, where you can use it to understand the sound all around you. But here's the crazy part. These stereocilia are so accurate that they can detect if they moved just one atom in distance. It's amazing. However, because these are not actual hairs, this means that as you age and they get damaged, they don't regrow like actual hair would. Sadly, this is a problem for all mammals because birds, fish, and reptiles can all regrow these cells, so they don't experience hearing loss as they age. It's just us humans and our cats, dogs, and other mammals that have to deal with it. And if you've probably already noticed that the first sounds you lose are higher frequency sounds. This means women and children are harder to understand than men because their voices are higher. But it also explains why certain letters become harder to pick up. Consonants like S's and hard K's are much higher frequency than the low vibration of vowels like an O or an A. You can hear it for yourself. Just try a few KKKs and SSS as opposed to something like OOO and Ah. You can easily hear that those hard consonants are much higher pitched than the lower values. You can easily hear that those hard consonants are much higher pitched than the lower vowels. But the problem is, when you lose some of these consonants, it doesn't just mean that you lose a letter here and there from a sentence. No, it means you really struggle to tell where one word ends and the other begins. So even if you hear most of the sounds that someone is saying, it's like you've lost your navigation. When humans talk, we're not actually listening to every single sound that the other person says. Your brain is constantly modeling, predicting, and spotting patterns to kind of fill in the blanks all the time. And that is how you're able to process this information so quickly, and why, even if someone speaks with a different accent or a tone that you're not used to, your brain can still work out pretty much what they're saying pretty easily. But as you age and you lose those higher frequencies, you lose so much information when you miss some of those consonant sounds. And now you actually have to listen to every single sound and try to use that to understand the meaning. And this is why you find it so much more tiring to listen to people than before when you've had hearing loss. Conversations, when you have good hearing, are just a passive process. You just do it without thinking. But when you have hearing loss, if you want to talk to someone, you have to actively put in effort. It's stressful and it's exhausting. And a lot of that is down to losing those higher frequencies. So why is it that we lose these higher frequency sounds first? Well, your cochlea is shaped like this spiral, and the stereocilia down here near the opening are the ones that pick up higher frequencies. The further around you go, the lower the frequencies they can pick up. So the lower frequency stereocilia are just better protected at the heart of the cochlea, as the waves of fluid have to travel right around the spiral, losing energy as they do. Nearer the opening, they take more damage, and so you lose those higher frequencies first. It's just like waves hitting the beach. The further up the beach you go, the more protected you are. So what can we do about all of this? Well, let's look at what's happening in the hearing loss industry today, because for hundreds of years, the only solution to hearing loss has been to increase the volume of the sound that is coming into your ears. It started with horns that you'd hold up to your ear to capture more of the sound. Then, in the 20th century, we built microphones and amplifiers that would capture the sound and then boost the volume. And over time, we went from huge boxes that you'd have to carry around like a suitcase to the classic hearing aid that you still see wrapped around people's ears. For many years, the only real advancements in hearing aids were seeing how small they could be made while still having enough battery that they could be used all day. But there was still a huge problem. And solving this problem is the reason why, until very recently, hearing aids have cost thousands and thousands of dollars and have needed costly tests and doctor visits on top of all of that. So what's the problem? Well, as we talked about before, when you lose your stereocilia with age, it's like losing some of your sound navigation, right? Your brain has spent your entire life learning what sounds to focus on and what sounds to ignore, and now that model that your brain has doesn't work anymore, and you find it harder and harder to separate people speaking from all the other noise happening around you. In fact, as you lose your hearing, this is often why it's hard to hear what people are saying. Your ears receive most of the sound you need, but it all becomes much more mixed together. So older hearing aids would just boost the volume of the sound, exactly like turning up the speakers on a stereo. But the problem is this also boosted all of the background noise too, and because the quality of the speaker in old hearing aids was bad, it made it really difficult for your brain to separate what was a human voice and what was just noise. The hearing aids made the sound in your ears louder, but it also made it much more difficult for your brain to process these sounds like it normally does. And this is why all modern hearing aids need a sound chip. It's not enough to just boost the volume. A great hearing aid has to immediately improve the clarity and the quality of the sounds so that it's easy to focus on the most important part, the human voice. That means that this chip must be able to adjust to different sounds coming into your ear. Is it a busy restaurant? Are you watching TV? Is someone calling you from far away or talking quietly nearby? This chip has to be able to make these improvements and understand the situations that are happening in real time so that it can only send the most useful sounds directly into your ear. So this is why those chips are so important, but it's also why getting help with your hearing loss has been incredibly expensive for so long. In most cases, it's not even covered by insurance, so you have to find thousands and thousands of dollars of your own money to pay for just the cheapest hearing aid that you can afford. Most of the technology in hearing aids is quite simple. The tiny microphones and amplifiers are easy and cheap to make. That's why there are billions of smartphones around the world. And batteries have gotten better and better, so now a tiny device can easily stay charged for 20 hours or more. But the chips were expensive. Not only did they take a lot of research to develop and manufacture, but also huge teams of researchers had to program them so that they were able to read and adjust the sound of the world around you. And they weren't perfect either. Even with good technology, you still needed to have an ear test and get your hearing aid set up and adjusted for you. This added a huge amount of cost because all of these middlemen had to get paid along the way. Paid the chip maker, paid the hearing aid manufacturer, pay the ear doctor, pay the hearing aid tech to check and adjust the aid, pay all the salespeople to make you choose that one doctor or that one hearing aid. It is a lot of hands in the pot, and that's how the average hearing aid price now has reached $4,672. But that is crazy, isn't it? Look how advanced these smartphones are, and these all have the same sensors and chips and so much more. So how has this one company called HeaSouls managed to make a high-quality hearing aid that you can buy directly from their site for under $100? How's it possible that they can make the sound so clear in your ear without needing a single hearing test? You just take it out of the case, put it in your ear, and it works. Conversations become clear and easy to follow. You hear people call you immediately from across the house. In busy environments, it's easy to pick out the people you want to listen to. The TV sounds sharp and clear. Music on the radio is a pleasure again. And this is how they did it. Inside every HeaSouls hearing aid is a Vox Humana chip, designed and programmed to improve the human voice in any scenario and send crystal clear audio deep into your ear. Just 10 years ago, this would have taken huge teams of researchers, costing millions of dollars in development costs, which pushed the price of hearing aids to such high levels. But now, because of the innovations in how we can analyze data and build advanced models of how the ear works, all on a regular computer, this has made it possible to take huge volumes of sound data from every kind of real-world scenario and learn exactly what adjustments needed to be made to boost the human voice for maximum clarity. This enabled HeaSouls to design, program, and sell your hearing aid directly to you with zero middlemen and almost no development costs, thanks to the advancements in data technology. The chip has also been developed to use the minimal amount of power possible, which is how it's possible to create a tiny device that slips right into your ear canal and becomes almost invisible to anyone who you talk with. There's no bulky case sitting behind your ear that not only looks awkward, but also, after a while, becomes uncomfortable. But HeaSouls' small, smooth design sits comfortably in your ear for hours, so you'd forget it was there if it wasn't for the shock at how much your hearing had improved and the huge impact that it's had on your daily happiness. In fact, to your friends and family, it could seem that your hearing just miraculously got better, and you're back to your old self almost by magic. If you don't want to tell them your secret, that's up to you. But there is one catch. You're only able to get the NetBrew for under $100 for a limited time. Our goal is to completely change the hearing aid market and to drive prices down for everyone, as hearing loss is a problem that could affect all of us at some point in our life. So we're offering an 80% discount on our Pro hearing aid. But as the big hearing aid brands and world-famous technology manufacturers realize people are no longer willing to pay the thousands of dollars that they demand, they're going to try to put pressure on companies like ours, and it's going to make it hard to keep the same discount. So please, don't miss this deal while it's on.
I have moderate hearing loss, particularly in environments with background noise. Using the HeaSouls hearing aids has made a big difference for me. After a couple of days of using the product, I am able to hear conversations and general sounds that I definitely missed before. One of the most common phrases I used to say was, "What did you say?" or something similar,
which I believe contributed to my hearing difficulties. Now, recently I found myself struggling to hear people even when they were standing, right next to me. And this led me to try hearing aids. The HeaSouls hearing aids are certainly within my budget. They're comfortable and easy to wear all day long. And the best part, I think, I can hear and understand people much better now. I no longer have to ask people to repeat themselves. I charge them up overnight and they last me for, really almost 2 full days, which is really very convenient for me.